Pass the wine, please. We have an announcement. My sister Claire was smiling as she tapped her glass with a fork. My husband Mark wouldn't look up from his plate. And then she dropped it. Right in front of my entire family, over Sunday dinner. Mark and I are having a baby. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my drink. I just set my napkin down, grabbed my coat, and walked out the front door. I left them all sitting in that dining room, staring at each other while my mother-in-law completely lost her mind. If you're new here, subscribe. I post a new story every day. Okay, so let's back up for a second because to really understand how insane this entire dinner party was, you need to know what led up to it. I had been married to Mark for 4 years. 4 years of what I thought was a solid, quiet, normal life. We bought a house. We talked about having kids eventually. We had weekend routines. Nothing seemed wrong. Nothing felt off. And my sister, Claire, she's 2 years younger than me. We were never super close, but we weren't enemies either. She was always the kind of person who needed attention, you know. The kind who always had some dramatic crisis going on in her life. If it wasn't a terrible breakup, it was a job loss, or some wild falling out with a friend. And whenever things went wrong for her, my parents would step in and ask me to help her out. Now, here's where I'd have lost it. Even back then, Mark was always a little too willing to help Claire. Whenever she moved apartments, Mark would spend the whole weekend carrying her furniture. Whenever her car broke down, Mark was the one who drove over to check the engine. At the time, I thought, okay, he's just being a supportive brother-in-law. Asterisk. I literally told myself I was lucky to have a husband who cared about my family. I'll be honest, I didn't expect what came next. Looking back now, the signs were practically glowing in neon lights, but when you trust someone, you just don't see it. About 6 months ago, Mark started staying late at work. A lot. 2 nights a week turned into 4. He'd come home around 9 or 10, claim he was exhausted, take a shower immediately, and fall asleep. At the exact same time, Claire suddenly had a new guy she was seeing. She wouldn't name him. Whenever my mom asked about him, Claire would just laugh and say, "Oh, he's secret for now, but he's really taking care of me." I actually congratulated her. I literally told her, "I'm glad you found someone who makes you happy." God, thinking about that line now makes my stomach turn. Wait, read that part again in your head and think about how blind I was. Would you have suspected anything at this point? Let me know below, because sometimes I feel like I was just completely oblivious. Then came the family dinner. My mother-in-law, Brenda, was hosting. Brenda is, well, she's a traditional woman. She cares immensely about reputation, family image, and propriety. She spent 3 days preparing this dinner. The good china was out. The fancy wine was poured. My parents were there, Mark and I were there, and Claire came in late, glowing. Throughout the meal, Mark was oddly quiet. He kept stirring his food, barely eating, avoiding eye contact with me. I asked him twice if he was feeling okay, and he just muttered that he had a headache. Then Claire stood up. She cleared her throat, tapped her glass, and said she had big news. My mom immediately gasped, thinking Claire was finally going to introduce the mystery boyfriend. Claire looked right at Mark. Mark looked down at his lap. And then she said it. "I'm pregnant. And Mark is the father." The silence in that room was so heavy you could hear the ice melting in the water glasses. Nobody moved. My mom dropped her fork. My dad stopped chewing. Brenda's glass paused halfway to her mouth. I looked at Mark. I waited for him to jump up, to look horrified, to say, "What are you talking about? She's crazy." I waited 3 full seconds for him to deny it. He didn't move. He didn't look up. He just closed his eyes. That was all the confirmation I needed. I didn't yell. I didn't start crying in front of them. I slowly folded my napkin, placed it next to my plate, stood up, and went to the hallway closet to grab my coat and bag. Behind me, the room absolutely exploded. My dad yelled, "What the hell did you just say?" Claire started sobbing, saying, "We didn't mean for this to happen, but we love each other." And then Brenda, oh, Brenda. Remember how I said Brenda cared about her family's reputation above all else? She stood up so fast her chair tipped backward onto the hardwood floor with a massive crash. She started shrieking at Mark. "You ruined this family. You humiliated me in my own home. Get out. Get out of my sight." She was so embarrassed, so profoundly humiliated by what her son had done to her daughter-in-law in front of the in-laws, that she started sweeping dishes off the table. Plates shattering, wine spilling everywhere, absolute chaos. And amidst all the screaming, the crying, and the smashing porcelain, I just unlocked the front door, walked out into the cool evening air, got into my car, and drove away. I didn't go back to our house. I drove straight to a hotel, booked a room for a week, and blocked all of their numbers. Mark's, Claire's, my parents', Brenda's. Everyone. I spent the first night in complete shock. No tears, just a weird, empty feeling in my chest. By day 2, the reality sank in, and I called a divorce lawyer. I told him everything, and we immediately started drafting the papers. 4 days later, I unblocked my mom just to coordinate getting my things from the house. She was a mess. She told me that Mark had tried to come after me that night, but Brenda literally pushed him out of her house and locked the door behind him. My parents had cut Claire off completely. My dad told her she wasn't welcome in their house anymore after pulling something so repulsive. And Mark was staying on a friend's couch because I had changed the locks on our house through a locksmith the day after I left, since both our names were on the lease, but I was the one paying the primary rent while he was saving. When we finally met up with lawyers to sign the initial separation agreements, Mark looked like absolute garbage. He hadn't shaved, his clothes were wrinkled, and he looked terrified. He tried to talk to me in the hallway before the meeting. He said, it was a mistake. She kept calling me, she kept putting herself in my space. I lost my head. I just looked at him and said, "You chose her. Now you get to live with her." And that was it. No grand speeches. No dramatic slap across the face. Just clean, sharp finality. The payoff of leaving right then and there was that I took all control away from them. Claire wanted a dramatic scene. She wanted me to scream and cry so she could play the victim who fell in love with her sister's husband. Mark wanted a way to explain it away, to apologize, to stall. By simply walking out, I left them trapped in the mess they created, forced to face the immediate disgust of both our families without me there to act as a distraction. Brenda still sends me letters apologizing for her son's actions. She was so humiliated by the scandal that she sold her house a few months later and moved 2 states over just to get away from the local gossip. Mark and Claire, they aren't together anymore. Turned out, once the secrecy and the thrill of betrayal were gone, and they were left facing financial ruin, family rejection, and an upcoming baby. They couldn't stand each other. Claire is raising the child with minimal child support from Mark, who is currently working 2 jobs just to cover his legal fees and support payments. I got the house in the settlement, kept my peace, and rebuilt my life from scratch. Honestly, when people betray you that deeply, the absolute best thing you can do is just walk away and let them destroy themselves. You don't need to get revenge. Their own choices will hand it to them every single time. What would you have done if you were sitting at that dinner table? Would you have walked out silently, or would you have caused a scene right then and there? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read all of them. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for daily videos. I'll see you tomorrow.